Hi guys. Um, Happy Valentine's Day. So no break, no free lunch, fine, but it's all right. No roses. Ah. All right. So here is our agenda today. So I added sweet because it's Valentine's. You know, like I'm turning you into a cupcake, but you're already too sweet. The agenda itself is pretty sweet, right? So one, we're gonna go over scanners, syntax, scan user input, and scan a file. Those are gonna be useful for your homeworks. And then we're gonna talk about exception handling, the terms, types, and syntax, how to do them. So those are basic stuff. And then we're gonna go over a practice, which is basically gonna be, reading a file and do whatever we did for the Python lab, which is reading in a bunch of I think it's housing prices, and then or index or whatever. Okay, so let's get started. So first, for scanners, the basic syntax is just scanner scan equals new scanner system.in, and then you just do scan.next. Easy, right? But how come it just prints my first name, not my last name, or vice versa? Right? So there's a big stunning panda there just asking why I only have one LIU. So the answer is .next only do the first one. So what's the first one?
The first, it's like an iterator, right? So first one is loop. The second one will be loop.
Okay. All right. So that's a valid answer. It's like, so scan is sort of like the iterator in like the, what do you call it?
Generator.
Like the generator in Python. So it scans the file, and it's basically the same thing as a file pointer in Python. That's what I'm gonna say. And then scan.next scans the first thing that it encounters until it hits a space, or until it hits the end of the string. Sorry, let me turn off my.
Popular guy.
No. It's from a group. From a group. Okay. So not a group of. No. So how do we fix it? All right. So then, what we do is we think there's something wrong. Therefore, we just use the Eclipse built-in built-in helper to help us, right? So we have a bunch of different things, right? The first one says next line, the second one says next, and then so all that menu was popped up when you press tab after you enter the dot. And then we can see a bunch of different methods we can use. Next line is the first one, and then it says what it does and what it returns. I'm not going to repeat what's going up here. So, but if you're ever in doubts on which method you should be using, always press the tab key. That's just one little thing.
Is that for Eclipse?
Yeah. So the reason we use Eclipse is probably because I used it a lot 2 years ago, or 4 years ago. So I know some of the tricks that might be useful, so that's why. Okay, so now what? We got it, right? It's easy. You just enter a dot, then you press tab, and then the program is just going to update you on what method this thing has. So in the future, when you are looking for different methods to use and you think there should be one, there probably is one, then just tab and then see which one you can use. It's just a useful useful thing to know. Okay. So next, we're just going to replace the scan.next into scan.next line, and then everything should be fine. All right, that is our first example, and I want you guys to try it yourselves on Canvas. I have posted a sort of a empty project. So the first thing you're going to learn, not learn, maybe you already know, but is to download the Java lab1 student.zip and then import it into your Eclipse environment. So I'm going to do it for you. So give me a hands up. How many of you have installed Eclipse and Java JDK? Okay, I should ask the reverse. How many of you haven't? But you know how to do it, right? Okay, cool. Then you just follow the steps and you should be good.
How does Eclipse make money?
There is another commercial version for Eclipse called a My Eclipse. That's aimed for Java Enterprise Edition users. So those cost a lot of money. Okay, and then for lab1, I'm just gonna delete it. All right, so delete project contents on disk. And then because now I have nothing, I'll just download this thing again from Canvas. Okay, follow my steps. And now when you want to import it, just file, import. Don't drag and drop it. I don't know why. It's just a convention. All right. And then in here, you would select actually existing project into your workplace, and then select archive file. In here, you just do Java Eclipse students lab1, and then there it is. And you can see I have included 2 of the CSV files which we're going to use later. One is names.csv and the other is shitter2013.csv. Those are the things we have worked on from our previous Python labs. I chose those CSVs because we already know what's in there and we have already tested on them. So there shouldn't be any problems, right? Okay, so I want you to try and import the project first, and then mimic what I have done for the sort of like a hello world program. It's like enter a word and then say, all right, what's your name? Your name is something. With that, you just open up the lab1 slides.java, and then it's gonna be easy. Okay, so with that, there are several useful commands that I want you to know. On Mac, it's command plus shift plus F. So this is auto formatting. All right. That's one important shortcut. Command Shift F. On Windows, it's Control Shift F. Very easy. It's auto formatting. So whatever code you write, for example, public static void string args void main string args. By the way, this command just have to remember it. All right, and then after I type, I just press Control or Command Shift F, and it's going to format it nicely. Very useful. And now suppose I don't have all the imports. The other command I want you to know is Control-Shift-O or Command-Shift-O. So what this does is auto import or fixing errors by the first mix. It's Command-Shift-O. Okay. So what this does is, for example, you put scanner scan equals new scanner system.in. Don't forget the semicolon. Immediately you're going to see the red thing popping up. That is because you haven't imported your scanner. So instead of actually typing import u2.scanner, all you have to do is Control-Shift-O, and now it's going to import it for you. It's convenient. Many professional engineers use Eclipse because they're lazy and they don't want to really type anything. So that's why those shortcuts I think it's useful for you guys to know. All right. So the next step is sort of standard, right? Like system.out.print. I think there's a way to make the system.out.print line into just five characters that you type, and then the system automatically converts it to system.out.print line because it's so much widely being used. All right. So in here, we're just gonna say please enter your name. All right, and then we just let the scan to scan the next thing. So like string name is equal to scan the next line or next line. Okay. So in here, there is another thing I want to talk about, which is the convention of variables in Java or of methods in Java. As you can see, what we have here is sort of like the first word we have a lowercase in the beginning, and then the second word we have an uppercase in the beginning, right? Next line, which has N as a lowercase and then L as an uppercase. I forgot the term of this kind of type, but what is it? Camel case. I think that's a word. And then this is the convention for Java methods or variables. And that is why I put the labs. I organize the labs into two. So Python labs follows the convention of underscores, while the Java labs follow the convention of the camel case. Except I put the first J into uppercase. Do you know why? Because I want it to be something like a Java project. And for projects or for classes, the convention for Java is having the first letter to be uppercase. So those are just very minor things for you to remember. All right. I mean, you don't have to remember it, but I'm gonna post today's lecture, or not lecture, lab, onto YouTube, and then so everybody can see it. Those are important things to remember. Like the basics are supposed to be easy, but I want everybody to know. Okay. And now we just do another system.out.println. Your name is plus name. All right. Everybody good? Any questions, comments? Questions, comments? No? Okay, that's good. And in here, we just type our name. And then it says your name is Leo. Of course, the format is a little bit weird, so we just do this. So just like Python, there is another many other things to format a string in Java. But for system.out, the easiest way is to use printf. All right, it says format and args. So that's going to be the same thing as what you used in Python, which you have the %s or %r or %d or whatever. So in here, we're just going to say your name is a string, right? And then we just put whatever's in the %s after it, right? Right. So now just add a semicolon. And we run it again. Now it should be good, right? So up to this point, we have introduced the print line and printf, how to format the strings. I have talked a little bit of the scan class. It should be straightforward. So somebody might ask me, what does the public static void main string args means? I would say you don't really need to know. It just means this is a main function, and you can run the program from here. And you just have to remember it. Okay, there are several other things you have to remember. Something like array manipulation, where you have to do for int I equals 0, I less than the length of the array I plus plus, for int j equals 0, j less than the length of the array j plus plus. Those kind of like 2D array manipulation, those are the things you have to remember by your heart. Maybe we'll do it next lab, but you should have already know it. Okay, any questions? No questions? Okay, good. That's good. Let's get back to our PowerPoint. So next, after we have introduced you to the scanning user input, now it's time for us to go into the file scanning. So file scanning is the same thing as the user input scanning, except we're going to let the scanner class to take in a file object, which is defined by a file path. So you can say, all right, file f equals new file, a path, and then scanner scan equals new scanner f. So that is the syntax. So we're going to get into why there's a red dot under it, but this is like the actual syntax for it. All right, and then we should we try it? Yeah, let's try it. For convenient purposes, I have put the Schiller 2013.csv under your project root. So for you guys, getting the file is as easy as this, right? Sorry, double quote, because in Java, single quote is a character, while double quote is a string. Those are different types. All right, so file we haven't imported, so we just automatically import it by Command Shift O. So now we just scanner scan is equal to a new scanner f. We can ignore the red dot right now. All right. So in here, it says unhandled exception type file not found exception. This is what we're going to get into next. So it's like, all right, you have defined the path of a file, but what if it's not there? What should I do if it's not there? So this kind of exception is called a checked exception, which means that it's not you did something wrong. It's more because the resource is not available. So sometimes there is going to be a database connection failed or something. So in that case, what you're probably going to do is to retry the connection to your database. In here, what we do is we just print out to the user and say the path you specified does not exist. All right, so that's easy. So what we do is we just add the we don't add the throws, but instead we're just gonna use try and catch, because personally I don't like throws. Okay. So now hopefully it can scan something out. We're just gonna print the first one. Sounds good? So we're just gonna print system.out.print ling scan.next. You have to put it into the scope, so in here. And this is not actually the best kind of approach for exceptions, because if you have opened the scanner and you failed, then the scanner will be opened forever. So a safer way to eliminate the system resource, to save the system resource, is just by calling scanner scan equals null and then scan equals a new scanner, so that you can do a finally clause and say whatever exception we got, we're still going to, if f is not equal to null, we're still going to close it. Sorry, not f, but scan. And that's not comma. Okay, so this type of exception handling is good. One, because the code looks clean. Two, because it cleans up by itself, because you have opened a resource and now you have to clean up. And sometimes the Java JREs, Java virtual machines, garbage collection functionality is not that good. So you have to basically GC yourself. So this one ensures that the resource you have opened gets closed. That's yeah.
So can you just like not declare it as null and then finally just close it?
You can't, because outside of the scope, so scan should exist outside of the try and catch clause. Otherwise, the finally won't recognize it. Just to show you what I mean, if I don't claim it here and then I just say
just don't set it equal to null. Just set it outside.
If you set it outside, then that'll be fine as well. Right? So the thing here is, for the scanner, so the question is, what if I do this thing here, right?
No, I was saying just remove everything to the right of the equal sign.
Remove everything to the side of the equal sign.
Yeah.
No. Because scan, or can you do it? So maybe it's fine. Let me see. I think no, because this thing gives me an error. You haven't initialized a variable, so it's always not a good thing if you don't initialize it. I guess for a lot of the variables, if you don't initialize it, then the system will automatically initialize it to a default value, such as if you don't initialize an int, it's going to be initialized to 0. If you don't initialize a string, it's going to initialize it to empty string. But in here, I guess the system doesn't like it, and it's always good to initialize it. All right. Otherwise, the memory control under the hood might get into trouble. I don't know. It's just purely a good practice, just to initialize everything first. You can either put it to null or new scanner system.in or whatever, but it's a good practice, I think. But I'm usually right. All right, so that's a good question. That's a good question. Always initialize it. So sometimes when I don't initialize it, I can get into trouble, right? Sometimes you don't know the default value to it, and sometimes you can get into something like a null pointer exception or whatever. So just always initialize it. That's always a good practice, sort of. I think. No, always. I don't know. Okay, so next, this is basically saying I did every syntax correctly. Why the compiler doesn't let me go over it? It's because you haven't added the try and catch. So we did a good thing over here. In here, it's not as good as the one I just demonstrated. Okay, so this one is actually better. So in the end, we're going to print out everything in our array list, I think. So again, we initialize an array list called, sorry, what should I call it? Data is equal to new array list string. So in here, don't worry too much about what array list is. Just think of it as a regular array or a regular list. That's the same thing you have in Python. But I have to have a, what do you call it, the bracket? Or what's the term for it? Parentheses? I mean the thing that's surrounding the string. What do you call it?
Angle bracket.
Pingle bracket. Angle bracket. Oh, nice. All right, that's good. So array list is the same thing as list, and the angle brackets are the determination of what type of the array list you want to be. So I think for Python arrays or Python lists, you can mix the types inside of the array, but for Java, you can't do that. You cannot do that. You have to specify the type of the list. Like if you specify here, string is a type, right? So everything inside of the array should be a string type. Of course, you can write your own classes and wrap up the other types, but that's doable. That's doable. But in here, what we're doing is just creating an array or a list that only contains the string elements. So that's basically what the angle bracket means. It means I specify that this list is of a type, and this type is string. All right. So that's a little thing. You're gonna learn it in class. Because I have to do examples, that's why I'm bringing it up here. And then for printing out an array, you just do for a string line in the data. All right, you system dot out dot println line. So in here, we didn't do anything about the about adding things inside of the array. That's why we have to add it. So how can we add it? We just do data.add scan.next line. Let's play with it. All right. So it only prints the first line. Why?
You need to iterate through everything.
Okay, good. So the answer is I need to iterate through everything in the file, right? Every line in the file. So how do I iterate through everything in the file? All right. So I have to do something over here, right? I have to make it to loop until it reaches the end of a file, correct? So the answer is, I'm just going to give answers because this is more like an example section. And in the end, you have your chance to practice using a new data set. Okay? So in here, the example is while scan.has next line. Okay? Then we should define the scan before we check if it has the next line. And then we add it to the data. If the scan doesn't have the next line, then the data will, then the whole loop will disappear. The scan will be closed. That's called resource closing. And in the end, you're going to have every line of the data printed out. So the reason I didn't do system.out.print the line is because there's no built-in function for printing each line in a different line for arrays. That's why I have to do for each line of string in data, called data, we print out the line. I used the shortcut for the for loop simply because it's similar to what you already did in Python. So theoretically, in Java, you should do it like this, all right? For int I equals 0, I less than data.size, I plus plus, and then system.out.println data.get I. So the Java way of doing it is more like this. But I think the easier way and the more compact way of doing it is the layer part. They're going to give you the same thing, but it's just, for convenience, the second way is easier. So the first way is useful when you actually have to use the index, which is the I. Okay, so something you have to remember and you have to repeatedly use it is this line, something like this line. Okay. So I want all of you to have no problem with using it over and over and over again. This is just very easy and easy to remember and easy to use. Very useful. Okay, so let's test our results. The other thing, how do you comment multiple lines? So this is how you comment multiple lines. All right, so the basic way is just to add a /* in the beginning of the things you want to comment, and then add a */ at the end of the commenting line, so that you're going to comment out this block of code. So for single for single line commenting, you just have to do a double slash. Okay. All right. Any questions for this? Yeah.
So when you initialize the scan outside of the try,
Uh-huh.
you set it to null. But for the array list, you set the new outside. So you also set the new array list inside the try and catch.
So the question is, I set the array list of string called data outside of the try and catch. Should I initialize the inside of the try and catch instead? So the answer is yes, I could. I can just say array list string data equals null and then data equals new array list. I think it should be good. It should be okay. But this way it's it's also good because initializing an array list won't really cause a file not found exception, right? All right, so that's why I initialize it outside of the try and catch loop. Okay, any other questions? Everybody follows me, right? Like, you know what I'm doing, what we're doing, and what we're getting to, right? Okay, fine. You should be good, right? Okay, let's run. So now we have the exact file with every line printed, and then let's test the other. Let's test the other. Maybe there's a shortcut to uncomment it, but I just I'm just too lazy to do it. So here they print out basically the same thing. Okay, just demonstrate those two are equivalent. All good? Okay, good. So that is the demonstration on how to read a file. Right? So in here, I have a little question to ask you guys. Okay? So inside of my downloads, I have Shiro 2013.csv, as you can see here, right? It's in downloads, and there should be one. So what would you expect if I put the absolute path on here, other than using this one, which is in the project path? So what do you expect it to give you? Like, this is a question people always run into when they do file input-output, because this is not going to work. If you don't believe me, then I'll run it. Oh, it's actually working? What? All right, give me a sec. Ah, okay. It actually works now. I have no idea why. Okay, good thing. It's working now. So I have to change my PowerPoint slides a little bit, but it's a good thing that it works. Interesting. So in your homeworks, you can put a relative path towards your project path, but you should be able to also use the absolute path if you follow exactly the path. my system is set to be case specific. So I'm not sure if that's the reason why, but you know, you have to follow exactly what's in the path, and you should be good. All right. So that's another way of like where you can read in your files. That's interesting. Okay. Fine. Okay. So I said here the exception handling here is not the best practice, but but in here it's a very good practice. Just follow this standard. You will be good programmers, sort of. Okay. The other way to load the Schiller 2013, if we really want to go into downloads, is dot 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 dot. So why there are 3 upper? Does it work? Let me see. This time I have to be absolutely sure. Oh, downloads. So the other way to make it work is using a relative path. So if you're using this case, then you should be careful about where your current directory is. So it's the same thing as when you're navigating through the Linux file system. You just have to make sure that you're getting to the correct path. So in here, it works on my machine, but it won't probably work on yours. So it's machine specific. Like it also has something to do with where your workspace is and stuff like that. But this is the third way of getting the file to be read, is using a relative path. Okay, those are the 3 main ways to reading the file. For your homeworks, don't send me the file. Just comment on the line where you read it, and then I'll change it and play with it. Okay. So now let's get into boring part, which is the theory for exceptions and the terms for it. All right. So although exceptions are boring, they make our programs invincible. So that's the only connection I can find. I mean, this one's cut. So whenever an error occurs, an exception object is created, and then we call the we call the event of having an exception is called a throw-in an exception, or throw-in the exception, and then the exception handler, which is the thing you do in your catch statement, is called catching the exception. It's pretty straightforward, right? So one thing here you should know is I'm just skipping a little bit on the thing. So suppose the program runs from 1. Suppose the method 1 calls method 2, and then method 2 calls method 3, and in here something not invincible happens, that the exception got thrown, and that the program is trying to catch the exception. So the program will actually trying to find the exception handler starting from the latest root, which is number 3. So if you have defined an exception handler on method 3, it's going to just run that. If there isn't, then it's going to go to 2, and then finally, if there isn't one from 2, it's going to go into exception handler on method 1. So this is hierarchy for the system to find which exception handler it wants to handle. I think I got into one of the interview questions that actually is the same thing. It's like it has a bunch of try and catch and throw, those kind of things. And then it asks me if there's something happens, and which catch statement will it be, will it get into? Like which catch statement will it get to? So this is basically how the program finds the specific catch statement when there's an error comes in, or when there's a when the program throws an exception object. Okay. So more boring stuff. Warning: there are several word filling slides after this one. Be prepared. Okay. Okay. So this one is what I have told you guys about. Checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. So all right. Checked exceptions, unchecked exceptions. You don't really need to worry about it. So in my opinion, unchecked exceptions are the ones you don't need to check and should either correct your code or let your program crash. So for example, now pointer exception is one of the unchecked exceptions that you know something's wrong and you want the program to crash because there's something wrong that shouldn't be handled. It should be handled by correcting your code. So for example, if you program something wrong in your array and that caused a null pointer exception, which you reads an index that's outside of the length of the array, you don't want to handle that. You don't want to say, okay, try read the non-existing index and then catch the non-existing index and say, I caught it. So that's not the way to correct it. The best way to do it is just to correct your code, right? That's what I mean. And this is two types of exceptions. And now the exception syntaxes. There are 4 keywords. Throw, throws, try catch, and finally. So the reason I made the last two words really big is because they are more important than throws or throw. They give a better understanding of the code, and they give better handling as well. So just make sure you know that use try and catch and finally, if you can. Throws sometimes mess up your program. You don't really need to touch it. So I put the definitions here just so you know what they are. But the most important stuff is just the last 2 things that I make the word fonts bigger. Okay, try and catch and finally. We have done an example of that, right? So all of you should know it. Okay, so here is another example just for the exception handling. You guys are gonna go to sleep, right? This is sort of boring. So anyways, let's take a look at this program and see what it does. So for the main class, it throws a found or found exception and IO exception, but inside of the main class, it also says that there's another exception called test exception, which creates a new exceptions and throws different exceptions. I don't like this, so I didn't program it. I just brought it down from a tutorial point. But from this example, it sort of shows you how those different exceptions work. You can throw exception if you create one, but you can also throw a system predefined exception. We don't have time to go over it, so just understand what this code can do, and then that should be it. I think Professor Anand just wants you to understand how to read a file with the try and catch class. So I'm not going to emphasize on the exception part. Okay, so now it's time for practice. So reading the names.csv as provided, store all names in an array list and print out all the names with the summary stats of total names on it. You have less than 10 minutes to do it. I have included a file for you to fill in. So the file name, I think it's called lab1 practice.java, which I split the operations into different function calls. So instead of sending me a big chunk of code, I want you to chunk the code into different parts and then calling the functions instead. So that's one of the things I saw in your homeworks. I don't really like it, but it works, so that's okay. But just take a look at the practice.java. Okay. So I have commented on every methods. There's another trick I want you to know. So for example, I want to comment this function. What is the easiest way to create a commenting block? The easiest way is just to do double star, all right, and then press enter. It's going to give you the default commenting for a method. This is particularly useful if you want to generate a Java doc for later use. So the Java doc is something like I don't know, like let me see, Java doc. So it will automatically generate something like this, all right, something like this. Let me see. So 4.0, yeah, it will automatically generate something like this, and then whatever you put into the things here, it's gonna say, it's gonna be in here, okay, in the field and description or whatever. So all those things can be automatically generated from a Java doc, and the way to do it is simply just by commenting your methods the right way, so it can recognize it. That's the other trick. All right, so in here, the main is as simple as first define the file, and then I input the file into the function of scan file, and then we print the array of names. Okay, print array has been given to you, which is basically the same thing as printing the array list, and then the summary is just going to be the total number of lines. So all you have to do is fill in this kind of blocks using what I have taught a little while ago. So I split them into different chunks, and the code won't look really big. Easy to maintain and good practice. Good practice. I'm just gonna go back to the practice slides over here so you guys can do it. All right.
This is a general question because I forgot. What is .java and what is .class again?
So .java is the code that you've written. It's like .py.
Right.
.class is the compiled Java code that only works on your system. Maybe it will work on other systems, but the other system has to be compatible with yours. So for example, on Windows, it's going to compile to a different .class. Right. On Mac, it's going to compile to a different class.
So when I'm like importing your lab examples, I don't need to import the .classes. I just need the .java. Yeah. And then it'll compile it locally on my machine.
Yeah. So every time when you have a new Java and you run it, it's going to compile it again and then run.
Right.
Because everything is built on the Java virtual machine, which is different from system to system. If you have the same system, then the same class will probably work.
Okay.
It's the code that matters. All right, 5 minutes. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit late. I think the time is a little bit. That clock is too fast.
Trying to run it, and that's what I thought you did in the meantime. Yeah, I was I see that. I see me. Just because it needs to be an SRC. Yeah. Because it needs to have the same name.
Like everyone gets around and starts to
Say that again?
yawning is contagious.
How did it work? So, okay, so I put this in SRC. Then it's giving me an error. The error is doesn't matter.
It's like you have to remove the first package.
Oh, this line.
This line.
Oh, because it thinks it's called Java lab 1.
So if you remove it, save it. Googling is encouraged.
CSV file need to be in the same exact. I guess you can find your own path.
Yeah. Yeah, you can find your own path. It's fine. Okay, let me see. Okay, give me a raise of hand. How many of you have finished the scan the file part, like the first part of this function? Okay, 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 okay. All right, I'll give you maybe 5 more minutes to do it. Sorry, it's a little bit outside of the class, but I really want to finish it.
got a PC for
Okay, I think it's time for us to try our solution. All right. So first, when reading the main function, it should be very clear. We have a file, and then we scan the file to the names, and then we print the names as an array. So the print array has been finished for you. Don't have to do anything for that. A scan file should do whatever we did for the first part of the for the lab. So all we have to do is or what is while no scan equals new scanner file, because the f is provided, right? And then while scan.has next. Right, and then you say result.add scan.next line, and then here we just add a try and catch, and then put the while clause inside of it, so something like this. Okay. Oh, so let me remove that. In here I say scan dot next line, right? Sorry, let me remove that. In here, what did I do? I did scan equals new scanner f, and immediately it's going to give you a red hint. You just surround it with try and catch. Alternatively, you can do you can basically write it yourself, but I'm lazy. That's why I use hints a lot. Okay, and now you have the results. And then finally, you close the scan. Is that right? Okay, so this only gives you a result that has every line read into it. But instead, we don't want to add this thing. We want to add the process line. So what we do is we give a temporary variable called line, and then say line is equal to process. I think it's called process line. Line. Okay, and then result.add add the line. And then we process the line over here. So for each line, we get what do we get? I think the first two lines has nothing in there, right? So in here, we just do scan dot next line to burn out the first two lines. Looks ugly, but works. And then what we get is something like a what do you call it? Let me see. So something like this, right? In here, we're going to do the same string manipulation as you did in Python, which is to split the string by these two things, right? So what we do is we call line split is equal to line.split. All right, and then we take the first one, which is this thing, right? Of course, we have to give it a type. So everything should be should have a type in front of it. So right now we have the line split, but instead what we should have is string lines equal to line split dot substring the first one into the last one. So I think you can just do this, but for completeness, I'll just do line dot length. Is that right? Or length plus one? We'll have to see. So because we already have a line defined, we will just say, okay, we want to return the line. Or alternatively, you can do return line this whole thing. In here, I'm not sure if this should be line.length or line.length plus one. So we can just run it and see how it works. So now it says index out of range from substring. So substring, this goes into the string class. What you should have do is take a look at here. It says line split dot substring line dot length is not good. It's because it should be line split dot length. All right, and then I think that's a valid name, right? Okay. Is there any questions? Back to the try and catch. Yeah. Okay. So that basically concludes our first lab in Java. We have talked about how the scanner class works. I have talked briefly about exceptions. So more materials are going to be learned by Googling. And then we did a little bit example of how to read the files, put those into an array list or whatever, and then process the lines along the flow. So hope you guys learned something or know those things afterwards. That's it. Thanks, guys. Happy Valentine's Day. No. Okay. I will stop recording.